Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexalex here. Got another Yu-Gi-Oh video for you. Not necessarily just Master Duel, as I'm going to do something I don't usually do and talk a little bit about the TCG. But also this is going to get into why I don't talk about the TCG a lot. And I honestly at this point don't even know if this video is going up on YouTube. This might just end up being a Patreon video instead, which for those who don't know, I do post exclusive content over on Patreon, full-length videos where I show off gameplay that you don't see here on the channel. I also talk about new card releases that I don't do here on the channel as well. And also, of course, there is the coaching tier that we offer over on Patreon as well. So if any of that interests you, definitely go ahead and check out the link in the description and head over there. But if you're already listening to this on Patreon, then you're already there. So hello. Anyway. So yeah, I don't know if this is going to be a YouTube or Patreon video yet, but I do want to talk about this because it is on my mind at the moment. So this weekend is the weekend of YCS Sacramento, and they also just announced new pricing for YCSs, that being the new prize card and associated mat. And while the announcement of yet another vanilla monster as the YCS prize card might not seem like a big deal by itself, I think it's kind of like one of many very rapidly snowballing problems with the TCG that myself and many people have. I say rapidly snowballing, these are things that have always been an issue, but the attention that these issues are getting is starting to come to a head here. So it's no surprise that recently we've had a lot of significant pro players leaving competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Maybe not necessarily all of them quitting the game outright, but of course the biggest one being Jess, but also many players have kind of, many pro players, like Christian as well, have like kind of expressed this notion of the pricing just isn't there. Like it's just simply not worth it to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Competitively. And I honestly have to agree from a paper TCG standpoint. I am a Master Duel player, but before playing Master Duel from 2004 until 2016, I played the paper, Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, right? And I got a level with you all. While Master Duel 4 was a large reason of why I took a break from the game, I did still come back for Master Duel when it came out in 2022, right? And I'd been thinking about getting back into Yu-Gi-Oh! Even before that, once Master Duel 5 was announced, but there's always been one main factor that stopped me from playing and what really makes me appreciate Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, and that's the price point. This game, like, of course, right now with Fiendsmith, we're already at a stage where the price point of getting into the game is just too outrageous, right? To play it competitively. But even that aside, like, the notion of spending, like, investing hundreds and sometimes even thousands of dollars just to, like, again, from the standpoint of somebody who doesn't have that competitive foothold, right? Like, I sold off my collection a while ago, so if I want to get back into competitive Yu-Gi-Oh!, I have to build from scratch. And I think a lot of people don't really think about that when they say, oh, card prices aren't so bad. Like, maybe at some given points in time, it's not that hard to stay up to date if you already have a competitive card pool and you're just updating, right? But if you're coming into the game from scratch, at any given point, it's going to be like probably at minimum $500 during a good format to like get all the staples you need to get into the game competitively, right? On top of already also building like a competitive deck, and that's in a good format, right? And by good I mean cheap, right? So in this format in particular, there's just the barrier of entry, honestly, is too high. Every now and then I'll get comments like on social media to be like, oh, you're a YouTuber, or like you're a YouTuber in general, don't you have a lot of money? It's like, no. I don't know where that notion comes from, but like a channel my size, for example, is, I'm basically doing full-time work to get paid less than half of what I would get paid on like part-time minimum wage. But even that aside, the cost factor I think is just not there. Especially when you look at other paper TCGs, Pokemon being the prime example of how for literally under $100, you can not only invest in meta relevant staples, but also a competitive deck. Granted, Yu-Gi-Oh's not the only TCG with a price problem. Certainly there's stuff like Magic the Gathering, but there's also a slew of other games like Lorcana and Elestrals that people are turning to because they are able to get that competitive edge while maintaining a good price point for entry into the game. And here is where we're getting into like this topic, right, about pricing at tournaments, which is the other aspect of that competitive price point, right? Because, you know, as much as it does suck that decks are like crazy expensive and getting into competitive paper play is, you know, if the pricing is there, you could maybe make an argument that it's worth it. But it's just not, right? So that's one of the reasons why, you know, this announcement of this new YCS prize card has been kind of contentious, right? Now, granted, Konami has made the opposite mistake in the past where prize cards end up being highly competitive cards that are giving people who win them an edge over the competition, namely stuff like Crush Card, Gold Sarcophagus, even Shrink way back in the day. You know, these cards were kind of exclusive to being prize cards for a long time and were also very competitively viable. That obviously creates, again, the opposite problem where you know, the people who are winning prizes are more likely to win prizes because they're playing powerful cards that are the prizes. But I don't think making prize cards random vanillas is the answer. There is a nice middle ground, which is simply take pre-existing cards and give them like an exclusive prize card rarity. Like, you know, cards that are always going to be sought after, like Ash Blossom or Imperm. Like having a prize card version of that card would still make it one worth playing and worth winning without breaking the meta, right? But it's more than just the prize cards or what the prize card is, right? There is also this larger issue of the pricing in general that's given out. And this is another big point of contention that has come up recently. And this is another one that I fully agree with. Like, so this is what Konami announced, I think within the last week, as the prizes that they are giving out at YCSs for the, you know, 2024 and 2025, right? And it's... so... Keep in mind, these are YCSs. These are tournaments that happen only a select few times a year at, you know, various points across the country. The majority of people, even if you like happen to live in a major city, there's a decent chance they're not going to be YCSs in your major city during that year. So on top of the already added price point of, you know, getting into the game by building a deck, now you're also committing money to travel and hotel. And, you know, accommodations, food, all that kind of stuff, just to play at these tournaments. And, you know, that's just another angle that I don't think is really worth it. Now, I will say this much. There is something to be said for the social aspect of the game, and that I actually do miss when I used to play in paper. You know, honestly, for me, a lot of the time, the fun was not even necessarily in traveling to a YCS to play in a tournament, but essentially getting to go on a vacation with your friends. And I mean, there's something to be said about that. But if we are talking about the game from a competitive standpoint, we do need to be looking at pricing because, again, you know, having these pro players who consistently play in and top tournaments kind of like establishes that, you know, there's a scene for the competitive play. There are people who are proactively trying to win this stuff, right? But then when they turn around and say this stuff isn't even worth playing for, that all of a sudden causes the competitive scene to start to crumble, where people are starting to wonder what really is the point. And, you know, this is a topic that came up even before Konami announced this pricing, right? So for Konami to have announced pricing like this in that wake is, woof. Like, you know, 17th to 32nd place. So keep in mind, this is for a tournament that's like potentially hundreds, if not thousands of players competing in. And if you manage to get into the top 32 of that, you get an invite to Worlds and a game mat. And that's it. Okay. So 9th through 16th gets 24 booster packs on top of it, one booster box, which, you know, I would cite the MSRP for that, but the MSR, like the price point of Yu-Gi-Oh boxes is so fluctuating and wild because of the way that they, you know, displace all of the good cards across high rarities, typically. Not always, but typically. That is something that with Tenpai, they didn't really do, and maybe might seem like they're willing to address at some point in the near future, but Long story short, a booster box's value is going to drop off dramatically, pretty much unless you open the packs most of the time, not all the time, most of the time, with recent sets, right? From what I've heard. So, I mean, you're looking at that's worth maybe like, I don't know, how much cash could that even really translate to, right? Like 40 or 50 bucks. So like, I don't know, it just feels like, why isn't 17th through 32nd getting 24 packs as well? Then if you get 4th through 8th, you win a Nintendo Switch as well as the invite and the mat, okay? But you don't get the packs anymore? Huh? It's like, the lack of pack pricing is especially wild to me because, like, that's an internal product, right? Like, that's something Konami's already making, or these booster packs. It's not like they have to, like, get the Nintendo Switches their own console, or, like, obviously prize cards are their own thing, but, like, is it really that big of an ask for, like, some more packs in YCS? Not even regional level, but YCS pricing? I mean, this is, in my opinion, this is just frankly absurd. There's also the argument that, like, Nintendo Switch is, like, on its way to being an outdated console, but, like, even that aside, I just think this disparity from, like, 4th through 8th to 9th to 16th, and also 1st and 2nd not getting any booster packs is, like, it's just wild to me. Now, there is also another angle, to talk about this, and that's, of course, the wish of the game's creator, Kazuki Takahashi, rest in peace, that there not be any cash prizing for, big Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments. That shouldn't be the competitive draw, that people should, want to play the game to want to play the game. And of course, I completely understand that. And I even agree with it to a degree, right? That, yeah, I mean, I don't know that we should just be giving out cold, hard cash. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that, but at the same time, again, I understand the desire to avoid that when it comes to prizing. But that does not mean that prizing for a major tournament has to look like this, right? Like, imagine, spending, again, hundreds, if not thousands upon dollars, investing into a competitive deck from scratch, right? Now you are also investing hundreds, if not, close to $1,000 for, like, stuff like, travel and airfare and, like, hotel and all that stuff. And especially if you're, like, looking to play in every single YCS, if you are one of these highly competitive players who is playing in every single tournament possible, then you're definitely, if you're going to multiple YCSs all across the country in a year, you're definitely investing thousands at that point, right? For travel and airfare and food and just all that kind of stuff. And, just the fact that, like, on top of that, and that's just the initial investment to play in these tournaments, now you're also having to play multiple days of multiple rounds of highly intensive competitive play. Let's say you make it all the way to the top, you make it all the way up to first place, you get an ultra rare vanilla prize card that does have value, albeit it is arbitrary. You get the trophy, which is, of course, we like getting the trophy. A Nintendo Switch, okay, a game mat, and then an invite to Worlds. So, like, you're walking away with the prize card and trophy, not to sell those necessarily short, but you're walking away with a prize card, a trophy, a messenger bag, a Switch, and a mat for getting first place at one of the most competitive Yu-Gi-Oh events of the year. It's just like, when you look at literally any other, not just card game, but even just competitive game, the pricing is just not there. There are fan-run, like, unofficial Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments that give out better pricing than the YCSs do, right? I mean, I think Jess made a great point in her video that in terms of the amount of time and, like, frankly, energy too, mental and emotional, just playing through all those rounds and, like, again, going through, like, the trouble to travel to all these different tournaments, like, for the trouble you get, you might as well just play in a local. Like, yeah, first place at locals won't be, like, a trophy or a Switch or a game mat, but relative to the amount of commitment you put into locals, which is showing up and hanging out and having fun with your friends for a few hours, like, that pricing is much more worth it than going to a YCS, right? And the saddest part about all this to me is that this has quite literally always been the case. This has always been a problem. Again, I've played Yu-Gi-Oh! Even though I started playing when I was a kid in, like, 2000, I said 4, I think it was actually 3 or 2, but anyway, even though I'll start from when I started playing competitively. The first time I ever qualified for World Championship qualifiers, which was actually when they were still called Nationals at the time, was back in 2007. And this is what Yu-Gi-Oh! Pricing has looked like ever since 2007. This has literally always been the case. I don't know. We are at a point in time where I think people are at their most vocal about how displeased they are about it. And we have also kind of seen that reflected in recent YCS attendance. Like I said, the YCS Sacramento was this weekend, and I think there were 890 players. And I've seen people say that there have been as many players for California regionals. You know, it just kind of seems to me like there is just this lack of desire to play competitively. And while, again, I do agree with Kazuki Takahashi that the desire to be competitive, to play competitively, should be enough in and of itself, it's just not practical when playing competitively does include investing all of this money, right? And this really does boil down to, and I've already actually made another video about this, but this really does boil down to why I'm a competitive Master Duel player and not a competitive TCG player. You know, the thought to get into pay-per play again has crossed my mind multiple times since starting the channel. But I'm kind of at a point where if I ever end up going to a YCS, I think it's just going to be to basically take a vacation, to meet up with friends and just hang out and relax for a weekend. I will admit, the last few times I've thought about attending a YCS, I've very much had in mind, like, yeah, I'm not going to play, though. I'm definitely not going to play. Because, again, like, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. It's not worth the investment if this is what's going to be given out, right? When it comes to that competitive play, I can get that on Master Duel for essentially free. Like, I'm at a stage where I'm not basically spending any money at all on Master Duel. But even if you were to spend money on Master Duel, like, imagine dropping $500 in Master Duel versus $500 in the TCG, and the staggering difference of what that gets you, right? $500 in the TCG would get you, like, a lot of staples, and maybe at least one competitive deck on top of that. But in Master Duel, that would get you, like, everything you would ever need, pretty much, to make almost any competitive deck. Actually, not even take the almost out of it. Even if you go for something like Branded or Monadium or Hero from scratch, like, that would still be enough to get you there and also be able to build more competitive decks on top of that. It's just like the disparity is so high that when I look at it from a practicality standpoint, the question to me doesn't become, why don't you play the TCG competitively, but why would I play the TCG competitively? I do still have that itch to, like, you know, play a physical TCG, to have that connection with people, but when I think about doing that, I'm thinking about Pokemon, I'm thinking about Lorcana, I'm thinking about these games that are just more practical to get into from a price point, right? So, again, I don't even know really if this video is going to end up going on YouTube, or I don't know. I'm one of many people who feels very many people who feels very strongly about this, and I've always also to a degree kind of felt that, like, if you have a platform and you have a strong opinion, you should share it. And so I guess that's kind of what this is. Again, I don't know if that platform right now is going to be YouTube or Patreon. I guess the tentative plan right now is just YouTube. That's kind of what I'm thinking in my head, but yeah, that's anyway, regardless of what platform you're watching it on, I very, very much thank you for listening to me rant and ramble about this kind of thing. You know, it's like, it's something that I don't think has an easy solution. It's something that I honestly am very skeptical will even have a solution. I don't mean to be so negative, but if you want my honest opinion, I really don't think things are going to change. I think that next year we'll see YCS pricing that looks pretty much exactly the same as this. We're probably still going to be giving out Nintendo Switches by next year even. So I'm not holding my breath. I'm not, like, posting this video with the hopes that, like, this will be the thing that changes Konami's mind. And, like, as I don't know, obviously if something, like, needs to be said, then again I think it should be said. But I guess it's just kind of where I'm at with this current situation. So yeah, thanks again for watching this. Again, thanks for patrons for the support, regardless if this video goes on Patreon or not. The names that show up at the end credits of the YouTube videos, the people who sub, also YouTube memberships as well. those who support that way are very much the reason why this channel is going. Like, that is, make no mistake about that. So that support is very much appreciated, and I thank each and every one of you. But yeah, like I said, that is just going to go ahead and end up doing it, I think, for this kind of ranty, rambly thing. Let's just move to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Just want to give you a huge thanks for watching all the way to the very end of the video. Believe it or not, that is actually one of the best ways that you can support the channel, is by watching the videos in their entirety. But there are many ways in which you can support the channel if you are so interested. The names that you're seeing on screen here, I gotta give an extra special thanks to, because these are people who have chosen to either become a member on YouTube, which if you're interested you can do as well via the join button next to the subscribe button down there, or have signed up over on Patreon and become members there. Link to that is going to be in the description below. Without the support that is being offered by, again, all the people that you're seeing on screen right here, I would not be able to take the time to dedicate to uploading daily YouTube videos. So thank you so very much. But there are also other ways you can support as well. Again, link to the description below. If you like my deck tracker that you'll see in a lot of my videos, the Untapped Companion, you can download that for free, and if you use my affiliate link down there, then that also goes a long way towards supporting the channel. That's, again, free. So is subscribing here on YouTube. That's also free and a huge way to support. You can also check out Twitch, once again linked in the description below. Following and subscribing over there will not only support as well, but also give you notifications of when I go live if you want to catch some of the live streams. But really, no matter how you choose to support, it all adds up, and it all definitely means the world. So thank you, each and every one of you. For now, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out. But more than that, I'm hoping that you have a fantastic day.